Hello and welcome to Better Body Movement. This class is designed to help you start feeling well.
I have less pain, literally eliminate that pain.
I just feel better.
I can tell that my posture is changing.
Bright light in the day when we've done our workouts online.
Makes me feel so good about myself.
Typically, runners who experience shin splints have overused the stabilizing muscles of the ankle as well as the dorsiflexion of the foot. The space between the tibia and the fibula has a sheath wrapped around it called the periosteum. This sheath oftentimes is rubbed raw, creating inflammation and tension on the shin bone. The muscles lining the anterior portion of the shin is the tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, and extensor hallucis longus. Sitting on a chair in a figure 4 position, locate the edge of the tibia near the thick muscle tissue. To find the tissue we're working on, push the fingers to the edge of the tibia and drop directly into the muscle tissue. Then squeeze into the bone. Move up and down the shin vigorously. After 30 to 40 seconds working in that position, we will work the opposite side of the tibia with the thumbs. Press the fingers into the soft tissue on the opposite side of the shin. Drag the thumbs up and down vigorously for 30 to 40 seconds. Ensure you work all the way from the top to the bottom of the shin. If your fingers have a hard time tolerating the pressure, you can utilize a lacrosse ball. Holding the lacrosse ball cupped in your hand, press into the muscle tissue directly beside the tibia, working your way all the way from the top of the tibia down towards the ankle. Remember to use strong pressure directly near the bone. Continue the same kind of work on the inside portion of the tibia. Here, you can use pressure from your palm pressing into the muscle tissue while your other hand cups the ball, allowing you to create the up and down motion. Another way to work the anterior tibialis is by sitting sideways on a foam roller and leaning forward, putting pressure down into the foam roller. Obviously, this takes some balance and coordination in order to keep the pressure on the foam roller. In this position, flex the foot and relax, making sure you squeeze the anterior tibialis. Once complete with the foam roller, in the same position, utilize the lacrosse ball, creating a more pinpointed pressure on the muscle. Work your way up and down the muscle tissue right beside the shin. Typically, runners who experience shin splints have overused the stabilizing muscles of the ankle as well as the dorsiflexion of the foot. The space between the tibia and the fibula has a sheath wrapped around it called the periosteum. This sheath oftentimes is rubbed raw, creating inflammation and tension on the shin bone. The muscles lining the anterior portion of the shin is the tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, and extensor hallucis longus. Sitting on a chair in a figure 4 position, locate the edge of the tibia near the thick muscle tissue. To find the tissue we're working on, push the fingers to the edge of the tibia and drop directly into the muscle tissue. Then squeeze into the bone. Move up and down the shin vigorously. After 30 to 40 seconds working in that position, we will work the opposite side of the tibia with the thumbs. Press the fingers into the soft tissue on the opposite side of the shin. Drag the thumbs up and down vigorously for 30 to 40 seconds. Ensure you work all the way from the top to the bottom of the shin. If your fingers have a hard time tolerating the pressure, you can utilize a lacrosse ball. Holding the lacrosse ball cupped in your hand, press into the muscle tissue directly beside the tibia, working your way all the way from the top of the tibia down towards the ankle. Remember to use strong pressure directly near the bone. Continue the same kind of work on the inside portion of the tibia. Here, you can use pressure from your palm pressing into the muscle tissue while your other hand cups the ball, allowing you to create the up and down motion. Another way to work the anterior tibialis is by sitting sideways on a foam roller and leaning forward, putting pressure down into the foam roller. Obviously, this takes some balance and coordination in order to keep the pressure on the foam roller. In this position, flex the foot and relax, making sure you squeeze the anterior tibialis. Once complete with the foam roller, in the same position, utilize the lacrosse ball, creating a more pinpointed pressure on the muscle. Work your way up and down the muscle tissue right beside the shin. Typically, runners who experience shin splints have overused the stabilizing muscles of the ankle as well as the dorsiflexion of the foot. The space between the tibia and the fibula has a sheath wrapped around it called the periosteum. This sheath oftentimes is rubbed raw, creating inflammation and tension on the shin bone. The muscles lining the anterior portion of the shin is the tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, and extensor hallucis longus. Sitting on a chair in a figure 4 position, locate the edge of the tibia near the thick muscle tissue. To find the tissue we're working on, push the fingers to the edge of the tibia and drop directly into the muscle tissue. Then squeeze into the bone. Move up and down the shin vigorously. After 30 to 40 seconds working in that position, we will work the opposite side of the tibia with the thumbs. Press the fingers into the soft tissue on the opposite side of the shin. Drag the thumbs up and down vigorously for 30 to 40 seconds. Ensure you work all the way from the top to the bottom of the shin. If your fingers have a hard time tolerating the pressure, you can utilize a lacrosse ball. Holding the lacrosse ball cupped in your hand, press into the muscle tissue directly beside the tibia, working your way all the way from the top of the tibia down towards the ankle. Remember to use strong pressure directly near the bone. Continue the same kind of work on the inside portion of the tibia. Here, you can use pressure from your palm pressing into the muscle tissue while your other hand cups the ball, allowing you to create the up and down motion. Another way to work the anterior tibialis is by sitting sideways on a foam roller and leaning forward, putting pressure down into the foam roller. Obviously, this takes some balance and coordination in order to keep the pressure on the foam roller. In this position, flex the foot and relax, making sure you squeeze the anterior tibialis. Once complete with the foam roller, in the same position, utilize the lacrosse ball, creating a more pinpointed pressure on the muscle. Work your way up and down the muscle tissue right beside the shin.
All right, good morning. We are ready to go for our core day. So Tammy, good to see you in here. And then we had someone else jump on too. So feel free. Would love for you to just leave a comment down below and let me know where you're joining us from. That's always fun to see. If you guys have questions at all through our workout program, be sure to ask. That's the whole point of doing this live, so that way you can get all your questions answered as we go through, okay? And quick, before we get started on anything else, if you have not subscribed to the channel, it makes it a whole lot easier to find it. Just hit the little subscribe button down below. You might have to either log into a Gmail account or set up an actual YouTube account in order to do that, but it makes it much easier over time to find these videos when we get our workouts going. So let's start with our I dedicates. Still praying for Lori's mom doing dialysis 3 times a week, Ethan with his liver, stage 4 liver and bile duct cancer, and then also my friend's wife who's going through the natural treatments for breast cancer. And then we still are praying for Sky Toyne after her transplant process. So just continue to pray for them. I did see this morning, I just kind of quick got through some of my emails. They did make a post yesterday or today about Sky, so we'll be able to catch up with her, and then I'll post that on our Facebook page so that way you guys can enjoy that as well and know specifically how to pray for her through this time. Then we have our verse of the day. Always an absolute blast to go through our verse of the day. For they disciplined for a short time as it seemed best to them, but he disciplines as for our good, that we may share in his holiness. For the moment, all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. Hebrews 12:10 through 11. Tell my kids all the time, you have consequences for a reason, not because I like to give them, but you need to learn from them. Big difference between those two. And then I realized, wow, that's really hard when God does that to me. Shay, you're going to have consequences, natural consequences for the actions that you just chose. And then we discussed last night, actually, how the Holy Spirit is the thing that helps us avoid those bad consequences, because the Holy Spirit's trying to guide us, right? And it's not going to force us to choose, right? Because that would be taking away our free will, but we have the choice of whether we're going to gossip about that person or not. We have the choice to lie about that or not. We have the choice to, whatever it is, whatever the sin is, we have the choice. And I think the Spirit, so long as we are in Christ, will always be prompting us to walk out more in faith and trust that the Spirit is guiding us and helping us to choose what we should be choosing. So if it's not love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, or self-control, then it's not of the Spirit. So then we need to kind of question, okay, what's going on? What's my attitude? What's my heart? What's my posture in regards to all of this that's going on? Okay? So yeah, that's our verse of the day. So thanks for letting me go through that with you. Let's go ahead and get started with our core day. Remember, jump on in. We've got just one piece of equipment really that you need, and that's a foam roller or a pillow for between your knees.
3,
when we need
2,
it.
1. Pelvic tilt.
But right now, pelvic tilts, remember, press that low back into the floor nice and hard. I want you to squeeze that core really, really tight. So one way to check this, a real easy way, is just do a little crunch. Lift your shoulders up off the floor like you're sitting up, okay? Once the core is tight, keep the core there, but put your shoulders back down on the ground. That is really a tough thing to do, but that is the kind of posture that we're looking for. Tight core, shoulders down and back. So practice it, practice it, practice it. Good core compression. Squeeze tight, tight, tight. I'm doing your best.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Okay, tilt and fall out. So this time, Do the same thing. Compress your core really tight. Then, as your knee goes out to the side, don't let your hips shift on the
3,
floor, right? There should be no tilting.
1. Pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
No tilting of the pelvis.
That's halfway.
Okay. Every so often you see Noah around here. Good, good, good. Okay, again, re-squeeze your core, right? If your knee goes to the side and your pelvis shifts on the floor, re-tighten the core, right?
3,
There should be no
2,
movement in the
1.
hips.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with adduction.
Okay, tilt and adduction, so grab a foam roller or a pillow, whatever you have that you're able to put between those knees. Remember, core tight, knees tight, release the knees,
3,
then release the core.
2, 1. Pelvic tilt with adduction.
Okay, so remember the foundation of our movement is to do a Kegel, so compress your pelvic floor really tight, then compress your core as firmly as you possibly can. Between those two, you should be able to brace your spine really well, creating a nice firm compression. Okay, so Kegel, compress, squeeze those knees, release the knees, but keep your core in the Kegel, and then relax. Okay, do it again. Right, every
That's
single time you
halfway.
squeeze the knees or relax the knees, you should be reiterating core tight, core tight, core tight, core tight. Because what are we focused on today? The core. So let's keep it tight. Right, so this is the most simple training that we have as far as learning to create a tight core while we create movement. Right, so that's the whole application. Is let's get the core tight so we can
3,
apply it to everyday
2,
movement.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Okay, knee toward chest, so a march. Right, so core tight while we flex the hips. Right, that's like pulling to step
3,
up onto something.
2,
Right, we need
1.
to lift the knees.
Pelvic
So
tilt with
core
knee
tight,
toward chest.
core tight, lift the knee towards the chest, and then set it back down. Again, do not let your hips shift or change. A lot of times I see what's called the Rubik's Cube. One shifts when you go to lift the knee, right? So don't let that happen. Core tight, tight, tight. Right? Think of bowling balls dropping onto your stomach here. Compress, firm, firm, as hard as you possibly can. Okay, doing your best
That's
all the way
halfway.
through. Tight squeeze. Tight squeeze. Compressing all the way through. Firm, firm, firm. Good, good, good.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with bridge.
Awesome. Okay, tilt and bridge.
Three, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with bridge.
Okay, get that core as tight as you possibly can get it. Then squeeze your butt cheeks together really, really firm. You want to think you're pinching a penny between the butt cheeks as tight as you can. And again, remember, you're not peeling off the floor like a sticker. And then when you set back down, if your low back is not touching the floor, you know you lost your core. So we need to tilt the pelvis back under. Make sure you keep it there as you lift and set down. So the hips, low back, and ribs
That's halfway.
should return simultaneously. There should be no change there, okay? Do your best all the way through. Good, good, good. And recompress that core. Squeeze nice and tight. Good, Marsha.
3, 2,
Press,
1.
squeeze those cheeks.
Prepare for shoulder
Good.
drops.
Okay, get set for shoulder drops. Here we start, right, by pulling those shoulder blades back to the floor, but also
3,
down out of the
1.
ears.
Shoulder
Okay.
drop.
Then we can hold up the ceiling, right? Imagine the ceiling coming down towards you. And you're going to push against that ceiling without driving your shoulders forward. Right? We don't want to round it back. We want the back set in place, nice and tight. Okay? Shoulders down back. And every time, right, that arm goes overhead, there's a little relaxation that happens there. So we're going to let the shoulder go through its range of motion as far as you have.
That's halfway.
Then, as your arm returns, you're not going to shrug your shoulder to your ear. You're actually going to do the opposite. You want to pull the shoulder down and back, right? So relax up, set your shoulder. Take it right back to that starting position. Shoulder blades down, back, down, back, down, back. Okay, good, good, good. Again, do your best. Your best.
3, 2,
Awesome.
1. Prepare for dead bug.
Good. All right, dead bugs. So with the dead bug, again, Kegel compress, press that low back into the floor nice and tight. And then as you extend those opposites,
3,
make sure you
2,
don't overextend.
1. Dead bug.
Okay, you know you've overextended your leg, especially if your low back leaves the floor. Okay, do not let the back leave the floor. It must stay tight. So if you need to, you either shorten the distance your leg travels, right? Or you can still straighten your knee, but you're just thinking more straight up to the ceiling, right? Rather than down to the floor. Just go more towards the ceiling. So your angle will just be less or more based on how tight your core is.
That's halfway.
Good, ladies. Good, good, good. Again, do your best. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Again, hold that core tight. Firm, firm, firm. Remember, it's like having a box between your arms and your legs. So your knees should not be pulling up to your chest, right? They should stay vertical, straight up to the ceiling.
3, 2,
Good.
long rest.
Awesome. Very good work. Okay, you've got a minute break. So round 2 here, what I want you to think is we're going to start lifting some of the weight off your feet for every single one of these except the bridge. Okay, so we're going to lift about 50% of the pressure off of your feet while you create these contractions. Okay, so I want core compress really tight, lift 50% of the weight off your feet, set your feet back down, then release your core, and then we'll do it all over again. Okay, so do your absolute best this round. Okay, absolute best.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt.
Okay, here we go. Get set. Ready for the pelvic tilt.
Three, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt.
Okay, here we go. Core tight. Squeeze firm. Compress, compress, compress. Lift just a little bit of the weight off your feet. Right? It doesn't actually create any movement. Your feet shouldn't move. It's just pulling, flexing your hips a tiny bit, and then watch what your hips do, right? Does it pull your spine off the ground, or can you keep that spine on the ground, compressing your core just as hard as you possibly can, right? That's what we want. Recompress, hard, 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 right? If it seems easy, you're doing it wrong, okay? So go ahead and let me know. It's what every person wants, right? Shay to know you're doing it wrong. Okay, but if we don't get it right, you're not going to create a stronger core. We actually create
3,
more of a weak
2,
core and start
1.
compensating with other muscles.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
And that's why, to me, Mondays and Thursdays, it's so important to be reiterating to our brain what our core should be doing all day long, right? Creating some sort of
3,
compression to
2,
hold our spine
1.
in an appropriate
Pelvic tilt
place.
with knee fall out.
Okay, tilt and fall out. So again, recompress your core. Knee out to the side. Well, actually, it'd be core tight. Lift a little bit of the weight off your feet. Knee out, knee back up. Set your feet down. Relax the core. Okay, and if you want, you can stay in it, right? Do the whole thing on the left, then again the whole thing on the right, but re-squeeze the core, right? If you don't take a break between and you're not letting go, make sure you re-squeeze, because you're going to lose just
That's
a little
halfway.
percentage of the squeeze that you have without even knowing it, right? Just by creating some sort of action with the hip, the core already is going to shut down to 3% of that muscle tissue. So pick that back up and squeeze as hard as you possibly can, okay? Good, good, good. Firm, firm, firm. Nice compression all the way through. Squeeze tight. Tight, tight, tight.
3, 2,
Good.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with adduction.
Awesome. Okay, again, do your absolute best all the way through. Okay, your absolute best all the way through.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with adduction.
Good tilt. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Nice and firm. Compress tight, tight, tight. Good, good, good. Okay, so again, this one, core compressed. Squeeze the knees and lift the feet a tiny, tiny bit, right? Just enough to activate the hip flexors, then set them down, release the knees, then release the core. Again, your feet don't have to leave the floor. It's just creating a tiny pull, just to make sure your core can stay tight through that motion. Okay, good, good, good. Squeeze hard, 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 hard. Right? It's always recompress, recompress. Okay, very good. Almost there.
3, 2,
Awesome.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
All right, knee toward chest. Okay, so core compressed, squeeze nice and hard, as firm as you possibly
3,
can. As you
2,
march, the other
1.
foot stays light.
Pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Right, keep that foot nice and light on the ground. Press that core firm, firm, firm. Okay, opposite foot is still light. Don't push down into the floor as you step. Right? You got to compress and hold that core really tight. Very good, ladies. Your absolute best all the way through. Your absolute best all the way through. Good, good, good. Firm compression. Tight, tight, tight. Awesome. Core, 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 core. Make sure your hips aren't shifting and shaking on the floor, right? There should be no movement in your
3,
torso.
2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with bridge.
Okay, tilt and bridge. So remember, don't peel like a sticker, and when you set down, everything should touch at the same time. Hips, low back, and ribs.
3, 2, 1. Pelvic tilt with bridge.
Okay, a lot of times what I see with this is we try to overextend. We try to drive the hips all the way through the ceiling, but then when we do that, we end up arching the back a whole bunch and then setting back down, and I've maintained an arch rather than core compression and hips tucked. Okay? Squeeze nice and tight. Hold firm. Okay, all the way through.
That's halfway.
Good, good, good. Awesome, ladies. Doing your best. All the way through, okay? You can do it. You can do it. But recheck, right? Make sure you recheck. Make sure that spine gets in a nice, straight, strong alignment, right? Because if you're peeling off the ground and then setting down and your
3,
back's not straight,
2,
we've lost the
1.
whole point.
Prepare for shoulder drops.
Okay, here we go. Shoulder drop. So again, start by pulling your shoulders all the way down back behind you, and then reach down for your feet. So it's a two-step process, and if you need to stair step it, it's fine.
3,
Go back, down,
2,
back, down,
1.
back, down.
Shoulder drop.
Okay, then we hold the ceiling like it's gonna fall on us. Arm up overhead is relax, and then pull your shoulder back down and back to the position that you started in. If you go up and your return and your shoulder's in your ear, that is bad because your shoulder's not an earring, right? It's not an accessory. We're not going to wear it in our ears. It's not pretty. We want to make room for the earrings.
That's halfway.
Good, good, good. Core compressed, tight, tight, tight still. Right? Even though we're working through the shoulders and trying to get the shoulder posture down, we still need the core to stay tight as we go through it, okay? Compress, 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 nice and firm. Very good. Again, light feet here. Light feet.
3, 2,
Awesome.
1. Prepare for dead bug.
Very good. Get set for the dead bug, or you can do the bird dog. I'll show you guys the bird dog here for the example, right? When we're in this position, we don't want a cat
3,
or cow.
2,
Hold your
1.
spine in neutral.
Dead bug.
Right? So the whole point, even in the bird dog, is to maintain a neutral spine. And you'll notice if you look at how I'm doing this, I'm not overarching or overextending my heels up to the ceiling, right? I want to make sure, first and foremost, the spine stays in its alignment. So if I try to overextend and really reach and push my hand and foot up to the ceiling, I'm going to end up arching my back, right? And again, the
That's
whole point of
halfway.
today is to create a spinal bracing sequence to where we can hold this firm and then create the extensions that we want, right? So it's just reiterating this first, core first, then movement. Core, then movement. Okay, almost there. 12 seconds, doing your best to finish strong. Again, neutral spine, neutral spine. Do your absolute best all the way through.
3, 2,
Awesome.
long rest.
Very good. Very, very good. Okay. 2 rounds down. We are on the 3rd round. This is our final round. Now, if you have the capacity, right? So this round, we pulled just a little bit of the weight off the feet. If you were able to keep your core tight through that, we're going to progress to the next step where we try to lift the feet. Okay, so the feet will actually be off the floor. Remember, if you can't do that, that's fine. That's something to work towards. That's the goal, right? So that's why we reiterate this. Do it always, over and over and over. Get stronger and better as we go. Okay?
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt.
But no matter what, this should be as strong as you can possibly squeeze. Force that low back into the floor. Do not push down with your feet at all if you're able to actually lift them off the floor.
Pelvic tilt.
Okay, core tight, then try to lift. Right? When you lift those feet, the low back shouldn't be shifting and tilting up, right? There's no rolling happening. Nothing should change here, right? Pretty sure I show that here at some point, what that looks like. And something too to check on is lift, right? Sometimes we try to lift one leg at a time, right? Try doing both feet simultaneously, right? Just lifting enough pressure to get the feet off the floor. And again, that's a slow movement, slow contraction. It's not just, try to lift and set back down quick. Try to make sure you have control. Core tight, tight, tight. Control it all the way through, okay? 7 seconds. And again, if you can't get your feet off the floor, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Do your best.
Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Good. Tilt with knee fall out. So same thing here. Core compressed as tight as you possibly can. Lift your feet. Knee out, back up. You might lose range of motion on this. That's fine so long as your core is staying tight.
1. Pelvic tilt with knee fall out.
Core compressed. Hard, hard, hard. Lift some of the weight off your feet. Knee out to the side. And again, if your pelvis rolls on the ground, you're going too far. Stop. Core tight. Go out just as far as you can without the pelvis moving with it, right? There's only so much range of motion that we have. And as soon as we hit that wall, that's fine. Don't go any further. Bring it back up. As you build strength in your core, and as we build strength in your hips, you're going to start to see an improvement in the way that your hip range of motion actually works, because you need a stable spine before the brain can say, okay, now let's move our hips, right? So that's where a lot of hip problems actually come from, is the fact that the core can't even brace the torso over the hips. So then your glutes and your hips start to seize up to create that stability. Right?
3, 2, 1. Prepare for
Good.
tilt with adduction.
Okay, tilt with adduction. So get ready to go. Grab a pillow, foam roller, whatever you've got, doesn't matter. But squeeze nice and tight, as firmly as you
3,
possibly can.
2, 1.
Doing your
Tilt with
absolute
adduction.
best all the way through. Good, good, good. Tight core. Squeeze those knees, release the knees, then release the core. Awesome. Do your absolute best all the way through, ladies.
That's halfway.
So again, this is a staged process. Core tight as firmly as possible. Squeeze the knees, lift the feet, set the feet, release the knees, release the core. Continue to think through each and every increment, right? They all have to be distinct. I do not want you to lose any part of that core through the other contractions and relaxation sequences. Okay, all the way through, ladies, doing your absolute best.
3, 2,
Good.
1. Prepare for pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Awesome. Tilt with knee toward chest. Okay, so again, compress that core.
3, 2,
Squeeze
1.
nice and tight.
Pelvic tilt with knee toward chest.
Good, good, good. Nice, tight squeeze. Awesome, ladies. Again, as you march, your opposite foot should be either hovering or just light on the floor. You should not be pushing down, because that's your hips, again, trying to take over and create stability. So you don't want your hips to do that. Not for this style of training.
That's halfway.
Right? Because the whole idea is compressing your core as firmly as you possibly can. So we don't want to lose that. Good, Marsha. Always recompressing that core. Tight, tight, tight. And there should be no movement in the pelvis. The whole pelvis should just be planted firm on the floor.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for pelvic tilt
Awesome.
with bridge.
Very good. Tilt and bridge. You got 3 more, ladies, to work through. Remember, core compressed as tight as you possibly can. Squeeze your butt cheeks together.
3,
Don't overextend.
2, 1. Pelvic tilt with bridge.
Okay. And again, on these, if you only need to go up 1 inch, go up 1 inch. That's not going to change a whole lot, right? But learn the basics, right? Learn how to keep that core tight, even through a 1 inch raise back down, right? If you go to raise an inch and your hips are off the ground, but your ribs are still on the ground, that means your spine is going through flexion on just one end, right? Your ribs stay flat, and then you
That's
lift your
okay.
hips up. That's not what we want. We want the whole thing to go immediately. As soon as the hips lift, that pressure goes down into the shoulders. Right? Then every time you come back to the ground, relax, and then re-squeeze. 15 seconds. Do your best all the way through. All the way through. We're almost there. Good, 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 good.
3, 2, 1. Prepare for shoulder drops.
Shoulder drops. Down and back. Glue them to the floor. Okay, and again, we're still thinking through a
3,
tight core.
2,
It's still a
1.
tight core.
Shoulder drop.
I know it's easy to be really distracted by the shoulders, but we still want the core nice and tight. Okay, compress. Remember, arm up. Go through what range of motion you have. It's not expected that you go all the way to the floor, but what I don't want is for your arm to go up, get stuck, and then you think, oh, I've got to reach more and arch my back to try to get more out of my arm. Because that's not shoulder range of motion. That's spinal flexion in a bad way.
That's halfway.
Okay? So keep that core compressed, go through what range of motion you have, and then return to your starting point. It's always back to that start, right? Because this is every push and pull that we have to do is going to be from a position where that shoulder blade is set in its most stable environment, and that's what protects your shoulder. Good, good, good. And do your
3,
best all the way
2,
through, ladies.
1. Prepare for
Good. All right. Get set and ready for the dead bug or bird dog, either one. No matter what you pick, it's core compressed.
3, 2, 1. Dead bug.
Squeeze tight, 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 tight. Compress, 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 compress. Good, ladies. Firm squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Holding through. Compress, compress, compress. Again, your best.
That's halfway.
Good. Almost there. We've got 17 seconds. Again, reset, re-squeeze. Try to get all the way through if you can. Right? To stop early is to cheat yourself.
3,
Compress, compress, compress.
1. Long rest.
Woo! Good one, Marcia. Very, very good work, everyone. Thank you so much for stopping in, joining us for this workout. Remember, if you have not, please subscribe to the channel. It's how we keep things running here, able to provide this training for free. Share it. Tell individuals that you think would be able to benefit from what we do here. So anyone who is nearing retirement, lives with a daily ache or pain, has some sort of movement dysfunction or tissue issue, right? Got an issue with the tissue, this is the right place to be. All right, we are going to jump back into some shin splint videos, working through the calf and some of the shin muscle tissue and some of the connective tissue there that creates shin splints. So remember, if you don't have a problem with shin splints, you can go through the video anyway and just see if there happens to be something there that you never really knew. Oh, that's a little more sensitive or tender. You want to work that then. If you just really don't feel like that's a problem, maybe you have something else going on, you can jump over to our playlists here on YouTube and find specifically what you do have a problem with. So if you have a headache today, go to our headache video and work through it to try to relieve that headache. Okay, that's the reason all of these tools are available online for free, is for you to see the improvement that you need in your life, okay? I am here to help you move well and live well. Have a fantastic day. We will see you tomorrow.
Typically, runners who experience shin splints have overused the stabilizing muscles of the ankle as well as the dorsiflexion of the foot. The space between the tibia and the fibula has a sheath wrapped around it called the periosteum. This sheath oftentimes is rubbed raw, creating inflammation and tension on the shin bone. The muscles lining the anterior portion of the shin is the tibialis anterior, extensor digitorum longus, and extensor hallucis longus. Sitting on a chair in a figure 4 position, locate the edge of the tibia near the thick muscle tissue. To find the tissue we're working on, push the fingers to the edge of the tibia and drop directly into the muscle tissue. Then squeeze into the bone. Move up and down the shin vigorously. After 30 to 40 seconds working in that position, we will work the opposite side of the tibia with the thumbs. Press the fingers into the soft tissue on the opposite side of the shin. Drag the thumbs up and down vigorously for 30 to 40 seconds. Ensure you work all the way from the top to the bottom of the shin. If your fingers have a hard time tolerating the pressure, you can utilize a lacrosse ball. Holding the lacrosse ball cupped in your hand, press into the muscle tissue directly beside the tibia, working your way all the way from the top of the tibia down towards the ankle. Remember to use strong pressure directly near the bone. Continue the same kind of work on the inside portion of the tibia. Here, you can use pressure from your palm pressing into the muscle tissue, while your other hand cups the ball, allowing you to create the up and down motion. Another way to work the anterior tibialis is by sitting sideways on a foam roller and leaning forward, putting pressure down into the foam roller. Obviously, this takes some balance and coordination in order to keep the pressure on the foam roller. In this position, flex the foot and relax, making sure you squeeze the anterior tibialis. Once complete with the foam roller, in the same position, utilize the lacrosse ball, creating a more pinpointed pressure on the muscle. Work your way up and down the muscle tissue right beside the shin.
Oh, walking on this.